Yuji Itadori's domain is something that has been theorized since the dawn of mankind. I wish my mic wouldn't just try and attack me.
Sometimes you gotta close the door to open a window.
Before we get into this video, I just want to let you all know I have a quick announcement. On the 3rd of August, I will be preparing to launch. Well, I won't be preparing. It will be launched. I'm really bad at this stuff. Anyway, we'll be launching merch. Yeah, we got merch. Some of you eagle-eyed guys might have spotted this. It is embroidered. It's very shiny. This one has dog hairs on it, except a dog. My dog's cute. My dog's very cute. Every merch bought equals more food and more head treats for dogs. That's a really good sales tactic. Right, basically, if you're a member on this channel, as a way of saying thank you, you guys are getting early access, meaning today, if you're a member on the channel, you can buy said merch starting today, alongside a discount code for the members only, as my way of saying thank you. And for the rest of everyone else, you guys will be getting it all on the 3rd of August. I'm extremely excited and extremely nervous to do this, but it is very nice quality. It's affordable. Yeah, I'm very excited. So yeah, if you remember, go buy some merch, all of that good stuff. Anyway, I'll stop being a shameless shill. Anyway, back to the video. Jujutsu Kaisen 264 has finally dropped, and it dropped quite possibly the biggest bombshell we have literally seen since chapter 236. I mean, literally, this thing was trending longer and harder. Pause. Then 236, which is kind of insane, and eerily it had very similar vibes. There is a lot that happens in this chapter, but overall the theme and the subtext of this chapter, it was genuinely subtly focusing on telling us how Yuji is now a very legit and scary threat to Sukuna. Like, these soul dismantles that he's been firing around, they are not to be trifled with, and Sukuna in this last chapter admitting that should he continue to get hit with these, he'll end up losing this fight, which I pointed out in this video, which, by the way, aged like fine fucking wine, that video did. But Sukuna admitting this in and of itself is genuinely just a massive feat for Yuji to achieve. Not even Gojo had Sukuna in a situation where that thought had crossed his mind, where I'm going to lose here if this continues. But this is further emphasized a little bit more and a little bit harder later on by Sukuna saying now, before he is torn from Megumi's body, he'll take Angel's life. Now, this to me screams Sukuna is coming to terms with his sort of imminent defeat, or at least his imminent departure from Megumi's body here. That's like, you know, the way the sentence is framed is just like, if I'm going down, I'm taking down someone with me. I'm going down swinging, which is, it's part of the course for Sukuna. I mean, I don't think any of us expected him to go out like a little bitch here. I don't think any of us expected him to go out like Mahito. As much as I would have liked to have seen that, I wanted Yuji to break him just like he did Mahito, but I can't just see it happening, to be honest with you. I did mention how when he threw up the fingers, it was very reminiscent of Mahito. However, this chapter again is filled with subtext. Sukuna recognizing the severity and the seriousness of Yuji's power here, later stating up in this chapter that Yuji's technique is fatal to a reincarnated type like himself, which honestly, it puts Yuji solidly into the top 5 of the series as far as I'm concerned. Like, I'm not a power scaler, so I'll leave that to more skilled folks, but if you ask me, Yuji is top 5 in the strength charts right now. It's actually insane. But Sukuna does go on to say how this technique is meaningless if it cannot hit him, and that's where the flashback of Gojo explaining domains comes into play. Now remember, as I've said, this chapter is absolutely filled with subtext that strongly implies Sukuna by the end of this chapter was indeed separated from Megumi. That is my working theory right now. As it stands, Sukuna can't use his CT due to burnout, therefore he can't use his domain. Oh my god, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my god. He does have his RCT, but Yuji's domain expansion completely catches Sukuna off guard. It caught us all off guard, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm like, if you were there for that live stream, bro, that shit was phenomenal. And this chapter makes it very clear that if Yuji is to touch Sukuna, it's game over. It's just game over. And in Gojo's explanation here, he explains how domain sure hits never miss. They are guaranteed to hit. So it kind of very strongly implies that the sure hit being imbued into this domain, it's not blood manipulation, as some people have theorized. It is indeed Yuji's shrine, essentially. It's his shrine. It's his soul dismantle that he's been hitting people with. And as Yuji hits the domain here, we are shown Yuji, whose hands are now back to normal. His eyes are back to normal, and he's fully healed. And another very important detail is Yuji has no Sukuna markings under his eyes, because I know a lot of y'all might have been wondering, maybe Sukuna might have taken over Yuji instead, but that's not the case. It doesn't seem to be the case anyway. But the most interesting detail here is Sukuna himself is back in his Yuji Kuna form and not his Meguna form, which is very, very scary. And again, I cannot stress this enough. I will keep stressing this. This chapter heavily implies Yuji's domain was successful. The fact that it completely and utterly caught Sukuna off guard and separated him from Megami, or potentially from one another, it is very, very strongly implied that this might be the end times for Sukuna right here. But now let's talk about the hows, the whys, and potentially why this is all happening. How on earth did Yuji learn domain expansion? Well, it turns out he actually learned it from Kusakabe when he did his body switch training. Now, not to toot my own horn here, but a couple of weeks back, I actually predicted something very, very similar about Yuji learning a domain through switch training. But I predicted it would actually be Yuta who taught him and not Kusakabe. Honestly, I had a feeling that Yuji would have learned the basics for a domain, especially with him showing off the simple domain. However, I am really happy with how this all shook out, with how this all played out. I will be honest with you, a lot of you across streams and YouTube comments have always asked me about how I personally see Yuji using his domain, or how do I think it would come about. And honestly, I've always loved the idea of him doing something very similar to Megami. His back is against the wall, all hope seems lost, and then bam, we're just gonna rip the fucking domain, which that's kind of what happened. Because once again, Sukuna gains his arms back, he's gained his RCT back, and he starts to somewhat bully Yuji, only for Yuji to immediately say, you know, well, I'm just gonna fucking hit the domain expansion, catch you off guard, which is just genuinely a phenomenal chapter. This chapter is just unreal, and I'm genuinely happy that we are not on a break next week. But I did see a lot of folks saying, well, why didn't Sukuna just instantly world slash Yuji? And that's for a few reasons. The first and foremost obvious one here is that Sukuna's chaos technique right now is still burnt out. He mentions that in this same very, very chapter, right after he gets his arms back as well, by the way. Two, the requirements for him to use the world slash are not far different from Gojo using a hollow purple here. It's the same sort of, they need time, they need a charge up, they require hand signs and whatnot. I mean, for Sukuna, he needs the Emberton hand sign to get rid of two of his arms there for that hand sign, and then he needs to point in one of the directions, which leaves him only one arm free to fight off Yuji. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think one arm is gonna be enough to keep Yuji from connecting a soul dismantle on him. So I think if he was to try and use a world slash on him, I think it is a very, very risky maneuver here. And he does mention how he's not going to take any risks like he did against Gojo. Like, he's going to play this safe. Like, and I think that further emphasizes just how not scared, but just how much of a threat he thinks Yuji is right now, how much of a threat he thinks this power is at this moment. Like, his exact words right now in this chapter were, there is no need for me to make risky moves like Gojo Satoru was forced to do. He's taking this very carefully. Again, with Gojo, he was playing it risky, he was having fun, he was having a time, but with Yuji, he's not taking those risks, because he knows if Yuji connects again, it's kind of game over for him. Well, this all sort of like fills that I am you narrative of Yuji and Mahito being one. I don't know, man. There's something here that I'm not quite connecting. There's like a trifecta between Sukuna, Mahito, and Yuji, all just like sort of embodying each other. It's really strange to see. And when the series is done, I would like to go back and dig deeper into that and find out what I've missed there. But as I've mentioned many times right here, Sukuna's number one objective is to keep him away from that soul dismantle, which brings us full circle into this domain, because Yuji activating this domain completely and utterly caught Sukuna by surprise. His face from this panel, going from smirking and being assured of his victory, of his win, to this panel with his eyes wide and completely surprised, it's a very stark contrast. Now, I believe Yuji had this domain all along? Yes and no. I think it's possible he had the basis for how a domain would work, but I think those black flashes that he hit on Sukuna, I think that right there is the sort of the catalyst for how he kind of hit this domain right there. Because not only did he hit a massive streak of black flashes alongside awakening his techniques, his shrine technique there, he also had to use a simple domain not long after it. So within the space of a short amount of time, he's hit, what, 7 black flashes, awoken his chaos technique, shrine, which is what he's now imbuing seemingly into this domain, and then not long after, he had to refresh himself on the basics of the simple domain and a domain in general. So I think that might be the strongest case we have for Yuji realizing that this is the point where I can do this. This is what I'm going to do. And now I think it's just a matter of timing, because as we learned way back when in chapter 251, which for a while. That's like just over 10 chapters ago, but that feels like years ago, which is kind of wild. But we learned how Sukuna was a victim to a surprise attack on the individual assured of their own victory. It's a common Jujutsu sorcery strategy here. I am almost certain that this surprise attack just ended Sukuna. Like, this domain right here, at the very least, has separated him from Megami now. As I mentioned, this chapter is filled with subtext alluding to the fact that Sukuna is close to his end, or at the very least, the end of his time with Megami's body. Now, the real question is here, what are we seeing at the end of this chapter? Is this actually Yuji's domain, or are we getting a repeat from 236 with Gojo? Is this the fucking afterlife? And if it is the afterlife, then that means Yuji is also there, which is just, there's so many fucking questions. I think to get a somewhat bit of an answer to this, we need to look at Yuji's hand signs, which, as you all know, hand signs within Jujutsu Kaisen, the hand signs for domains, they give very, very vital insight into the character. However, Yuji's hand sign strongly resembles this mudra. Now, the guy who uses his mudra, I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know how to pronounce that. I can just about speak English. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, there is a long and deep, detailed amount of lore into this, which I do wish to go into in a separate video. But basically, TLDR is this hand sign essentially represents the man who decided he can't reach enlightenment until all of the hells are emptied. And this kind of line of thinking, it sort of lines up with how Yuji acts towards Sukuna in these final panels here, because look at Yuji here in this panel when he's dropping the domain. That's anger. Like, it's focus, it's determination. And then look at him in the panel after the domain, the emotions are totally separate. It's almost happiness. It's almost like he's referring to a friend. It's very strange. But I do also want to draw your attention to the fact that this train station is also indeed a fact. It is a real place. It is in fact a real place in the Iwate Prefecture, or it's called Kitakami Station. You can Google that. It's a very, very real place. So hats off to Gege for incorporating more and more real life places into this. It's very fascinating how he sort of just puts it all in together. It's very cool to see. However, this chapter did leave us with a lot of questions, which thankfully we'll have more insight into in next week's chapter, because we are not on a break. Thank God. I don't think my mental health could take another Jujutsu Kaisen break, honestly. Like, good lord. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for this next chapter. So yeah, anyway, that is everything from me. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the support. Don't forget to go buy some merch. Go buy some merch. It's very fresh. It's very nice. It's embroidered. I've spent a lot of time looking around and making sure that this is okay, and it's nice and it's good quality. And yeah, so I hope if you do buy some merch, I hope you enjoy it. It is available right now for the members on the channel. It's available right now plus a discount code, and then on 3rd of August it will be completely available to the rest of the channel, which I'm very, very excited for. I'm also shitting my pants about it, very nervous about it, so let me know what you guys think. Anyway, also Shonen Sunday tomorrow, we'll be reading JJK live, as well as the new Kagurabachi chapter, so come hang out for that. Nice little chill stream. It's got the same sort of vibes as the leak streams. But as always, that is everything from me. I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much fucking love. Big fucking kisses. Peace.